Hi, today we're going to do lesson 3.2. It's called multiplication facts. We're going to answer these two questions. What are factors, products, and multiples? And how can we use the commutative property, the zero property, and the identity property and known facts to help us multiply? So let's start off by talking about factors, products, and multiples. So when we're multiplying, all right, the numbers that we multiply numbers to get an answer. Okay. So in multiplication, the numbers that we multiply are known as the factors. So this number is a factor, this number is a factor, and the answer is called a product. Okay. So if I were multiplying, let's say 5 and 2, my answer would be 10. My factors would be 5 and 2. Those are the numbers I'm multiplying. My product would be 10, or my answer. Okay, let's try with different numbers. What if we were multiplying 10 times 3? Our answer would be 30. Our factors would be 10 and 3, and our product would be 30. Okay, now let's try without the labels. What if we multiplied 5 times 5? Our answer would be 25. In this number sentence, okay, what numbers are our factors and what's our product? So our factors are 5 and 5, and our product is 25. Okay, so that's all there is to factors, products, and multiples. Next, let's talk about factors and products. Next, let's talk about multiples. So multiple is any number multiplied by a whole number. So 5 multiplied by any whole number. 5 multiplied by any whole number. I'll repeat, 5 multiplied by any whole number. So that could be 5 times 1, that could be 5 times 2, that could be 5 times 3, 5 times 4, it could be 5 times 5, it could be 5 times 9, it could be 5 times 10. So my answers are all the multiples of 5. So 5 times 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and so on and so forth. So what if I asked you, what are the multiples of 6? Tell me 3 multiples of 6 that follow. Well, I gave you the first one. 6 times 1 is 6. Okay, what are the next 3 multiples? 12, 18, and 24. Okay, let's try another example. What about the multiples of 10? Well, that's 10 times 1, or 10. I already put that here. What are the next multiples, the next 5 multiples of 10? 10 times 2, or 20. 10 times 3, or 30. 10 times 4, 40. 10 times 5, 50. 10 times 6, 60. Those are the multiples. And then 70, 80, 90, 100. All right. Now let's talk about how properties can help us multiply, can make multiplication easier and a little bit quicker. So first let's talk about the commutative property. In first grade and second grade, you probably heard the word turnaround fact a lot. That's when you have a 2 times 3 and your product is 6, and if you turn these factors around and you do 3 times 2, you still get a product of 6. So in first grade and sometimes in kindergarten, these things are known as turnaround facts. But adults, we call them the commutative property, because to commute means to move. So when we have a 5 and we multiply that factor by a factor of 2, our product is 10. But if we take that 2 and we commute it over here, and we take that 5 and we commute it over here and we multiply them, we still get a product of 10. So if I know the commutative property, then I can commute numbers and I know I'll always get the same product. And that helps me out. So if I know, let's say, 7 times 1, or 7 times 2, 7 times 3, 7 times 4, 7 times 5, right? 7 times 1, 7. 7 times 2, 14. 7 times 3, 21. The product is 28. 7 times 5, the product is 35. Well, I know if I commute those numbers and I do 1 times 7, I'm going to get the same product. If I do 2 times 7, I'm going to get the same product. If I do 3 times 7, what will my product be? 21. If I do 4 times 7, what will my product be? 28. If I do 5 times 7, what will my product be? 35. So the commutative property helps you remember that if you commute those numbers, you always get the same product. Okay? All right. Now let's talk about the zero property of addition. Okay? The zero property of addition, you can pretty much, I'm just going to write 0, P-R-O-P, and I'll put a period there, I'll abbreviate. So zero property, I know that 1 times 0, right, gives me a product of 0. 2 times 0, and my product is, again, 0. The next one's really hard. 3 times 0, what's my product? Yes, 0! So what is the zero property of addition? Okay, it's that any number in the world multiplied by 0, what will my answer always be? The product will always be 0. So you could take any number, all right? Let's say we said, hey, what's 1 million times 0? The product will be, this is super duper hard, the product is 0. Any number times 0, the product will always be 0. Okay? Now, let's move on to the identity property. So your identity is who you are. Okay? For instance, I'm Mr. Joseph. That's who I am. Right? I can cut my hair, but I'm still Mr. Joseph. Right? I might get fatter, but I'm still Mr. Joseph. So the identity property is who you are. So you are you. Okay? So in multiplication, there is a number that when we use it for multiplication, right, the number keeps its identity. The number stays the same. All right? So you may remember what that is. Right? And that number is 1. So whenever I multiply by 1, okay, the other product will keep its identity. Okay? So if I did 5 times 1, well, the product is 5. If I did 6 times 1, the product is 6. If I did 7 times 1, the product is 7. It keeps its identity. If I did 8 times 1, the product's 8. If I did 9 times 1, the product is 9. You notice, whenever I multiply by 1, the factor keeps its identity. And the other factor and the product are the same. Okay? So I could say that any number in the world multiplied by 1, what would the product be? That's same as the factor. So any number times 1 would give me any number. So what would 99 times 1, what would the product be? It would be 99. What if we said 8,635 times 1? What would the product be? It would be 8,635. Okay, it would stay the same. All right. That's called the identity property. Okay. Last thing, we're going to talk about using known facts. So in multiplication, some facts come really easy, like multiplying by 0 is really easy. Multiplying by 1 is really easy. Multiplying by 2 is pretty easy. Multiplying by 5 is pretty easy. Multiplying by 10 is pretty easy. So if I know how to multiply, if I know these facts, what I can do is I can put them together to figure out facts that I don't know. So if I don't know, let's say n times 7, well, all I could do is that's the same as n times 5 plus n times 2. You're probably thinking, what are you talking about? I'll show you. So let's erase n and let's try with a whole number. Let's try 3. Okay, let's try this. So 3 times 0, well, we know 0 property, it's going to be 0. 3 times 1, identity property, it will be 3. 3 times 2, the product will be 6. 3 times 5, the product will be 15. And 3 times 10, the product will be 30. So I've asked you, hey, what's 3 times 7? Well, that's the same as 3 times 5 plus 3 times 2. And you already know 3 times 5, that's right here. That's 15. Okay, and 3 times 2, well, that's right here. That's 6. So 15 plus 6, the sum is 21. So 3 times 7 must be 21. Okay, let's try one more. Then it'll be your turn. Well, let's make this one your turn. So instead of 3, let's try a different whole number. Let's try 6. Okay, so if I asked you, hey, what's 6 times 6? So if you don't know what 6 times 6 is, well, you can take that factor and break it into two factors that you do know. You do know 6 times 5, and you do know 6 times 1. So 6 times 5 and 6 times 1, that'll give me 6 times 6. So what is 6 times 6? Well, 6 times 5, that's right. Here, let's write these. Let's change these. 6 times 0, 0 property. 6 times 1, identity property. 6 times 2, that's a double. 6 times 5, 30. 6 times 10, 60. Well, 6 times 5 is right over here. And 6 times 1 is right over here. So what is 6 times 6? Okay, it's 36. Right? And that's everything about factors, products, multiples, commutative property, zero property, identity property, and using known facts.